So a man is currently in a critical condition after being shot by police during a protest to mark the one-year anniversary of the killing of unarmed teenager Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. The fatal shooting of the 18-year-old by a white officer in August last year led to demonstrations across the United States and reignited concerns about racial bias by police. Well, we can speak now to Dr. Hannah Jones, an assistant professor of sociology who specialises in racism. She's at Warwick University in Coventry and joins us now. Thank you very much for speaking to us here on Sky News. I just first of all want to get your reaction to the events overnight in Ferguson, Missouri on this one-year anniversary of a tragic incident.
Yes, it is a tragic incident, but I think the bigger picture is the kind of tragedies that are happening pretty much every week across the United States, with people dying as a result of contact with the police, which makes it very difficult for people to trust the police or to go on with their everyday lives.
Yeah, Ferguson really was a snapshot of, as you mentioned, what is happening across the United States and the problems between the black community and the police. How real is the problem of police violence in the United States? I mean, statistics show that they've killed around 700 people so far this year.
That's right, and disproportionately large number of those people were black people, so around about twice as many as are in the population, the proportion of people who were dying at the hands of police. So it's a really big issue, and it's made much worse by all the other kinds of encounters with the criminal justice system which are racialised within the US. For example, mandatory minimum sentences which disproportionately affect black people and end up with a massive number of black people in prison, particularly black men, more likely to go to prison than to go to university.
Yeah, Ferguson really is being used as a case study in terms of the race and class divide amongst that community. Perhaps you can talk us through what it's like there.
Well, I haven't been there myself, but I've heard from some of the activists who are active there, and I think it's a really difficult time. You can see that people are coming together because they're upset and they're angry and they're in fear. So having the police presence, which is not just police officers, but people in full riot gear with weapons, using tear gas, shooting people who are in their cars. That's in Ferguson at the moment, but across the US there are people being stopped for minor things like having a broken tail light and ending up a few days later, after having been in contact with the police and in custody, ending up dead. And that's from no crime other than having a broken tail light. So those kind of things are happening every day around the US, and there's obviously a big focus on Ferguson at the moment because of the protests there, but this is a much bigger issue and it's a historical issue as well.
Yeah, it really was a watershed moment for the United States in terms of the last year has been largely focused on exposing and convincing people that there is a problem. But people will look at events overnight, and there was a day of peaceful protest, but then it turned violent that night with a small element turning on police that led to this shooting. Does this show that there is a lot more work to do? It's going to be a lot harder. I mean, in the last 12 months, people say, well, nothing's changed. It's exposed the problem, but the wheels move slowly in tackling this kind of problem.
Absolutely. It's a massive structural problem. It's also a question of people's attitudes to thinking about, you just talked then about turning violent against the police, but if you think about the perspective of the police violence which is occurring day after day around the United States, and thinking about what that means to people who are under threat, not under threat because they've gone on a protest, but under threat just because of the family they were born into and the country they were born into, then we really need to think about that being a longer-term issue which comes from generations of oppressions.
Yeah, President Obama has announced...
It's going to take a long time to fix, I think.
Yeah, it has. I mean, President Obama has started that. I mean, a lot of people watch events in America and go, how can this be happening? They have a black president. They thought that they were moving beyond all of this, but the president has announced a federal program to help police record interactions. But do you feel they need to go further?
Yeah, I think it goes beyond that. I mean, last time I was in the States was in April. There was a big national news story then around a police officer who had not shot dead a suspect. And the news story was how great it was that this white police officer had not shot dead this black person who was suspected of having a gun. It wasn't proven that he had one. That became look how great and how fair the police are treating people. Whereas if you look at the Charleston shootings over the summer, people were shot dead by a gunman and he was safely arrested and will face due process. Whereas black people are killed every day just on suspicion of perhaps having a firearm. So those kind of things are not just about recording the police interactions, but about thinking about the perspective on that. Who's treated as a suspect, who's used as an image on target practice but in police training, and it's often pictures of black faces that are being shot at. So there's a real kind of culture change and structural change as well as just recording. And that's important, recording and measuring what's happening, but there's a bigger issue at stake.
OK, interesting to get your perspective. Dr. Hannah Jones, Assistant Professor of Sociology at Warwick University. Thank you.